After weeks of back and forth, Ukraine finally got the nod for high-tech tanks this week, and we decoded Russia's reaction to that. Ukraine has another big demand. This time, it is fighter jets. Experts are calling this the logical next step, but the West doesn't see it that way. Remember, NATO partners had a tough time sealing the tanks deal as well. Members had to pressure Germany for the Leopard 2, and then Berlin further pushed the US for Abrams. So the process wasn't an easy bargain. Reports say that Ukraine is already pushing for fighter jets, and high-level officials from Western militaries are debating over it. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz has ruled out the demand, so discussions could be more contentious than supplying tanks. You see, Western countries have already sent Ukraine most types of weapons, from artillery to Patriot anti-missile defense systems, and Russia has always condemned any support shown by the West. But at times it has talked about crossing the red line. Last summer, the US sent rocket launcher HIMARS that pushed the line. Then it was the high-level battle tanks that pushed the line further. Now it's fighter jets. The consignments are turning heads. Experts have stressed that the speed at which Western weaponry is being supplied is escalating. Moscow has already accused the West of interfering directly. So will a green light on the fighter jets break Vladimir Putin? Now, for more on this, we are being joined by Mark Merowitz, a political commentator, also a professor at the State University of New York Maritime College. Thank you for being with us. Now, Ukraine has managed to get the support from its Western allies in the form of the Leopard 2 and Abrams tanks. Now it wants fighter jets. Do you think that the West will supply these to Ukraine?
Well, remember at the beginning that Germany was unwilling, literally, to supply anything to Ukraine. That was the whole issue. And we started off in this whole issue whether or not NATO countries would be supplying weaponry, and then the Germans came along and other NATO countries were supplying weaponry. But the idea of supplying and going the next step for the F-16s, the fighter jets, is a very, very big step. If the United States either would supply them, which is unlikely, or permit our American allies in Europe to provide fighter jets. That would require American approval. There are many hoops and hurdles in order to achieve this. The biggest one is assuming that you can overcome and with unpredictable Russian response. In order to do this, you need to have pilots who are trained to use this materiel and fly these jets. And at the present time, and also air bases capable of accommodating these planes. And that would be months going forward, not right away. So I think right now that there is a debate out there. And even though Scholz said there's no bidding war, I think he's testing the waters with his response where he's saying it's off the table. I assume that these are negotiations between the NATO countries and the United States.
Right. Now, Russia has always condemned any support shown by the West. With the tanks now committed and perhaps fighter jets to come, where does this leave Russia in terms of its statements about the West crossing the red line?
Well, remember, it's Russia that crossed the line by invading Ukraine for no reason whatsoever. This is complete aggression without any justification. In terms of the other side of the ledger, if you continue to supply tanks and missiles and all sorts of important weaponry, but you don't have air power, you can't prevent Russian attacks using air power, and you start running out of materiel, then that becomes the serious problem. And this is what the planners in the Department of Defense and the NATO countries are really looking at. They're worrying about this. But as far as Russia, as you say, they began it. So everything the West is doing, in their opinion, is escalatory. But it seems to be that from the point of view of the NATO leadership and even Biden and others, this might not be deemed to be escalatory, but we don't know because we cannot predict the Russian reaction because it's an irrational, illogical, and aggressive war. and it's hard to know. And so every step that's taken is risky and could provoke some calamity. But so far, the war is still proceeding on the basis of America, NATO providing weaponry, and Russia increasing its aggression. That's where we are right now.
Right. That was my next question to you. Where are we now, in your opinion? And then furthermore, what will it take to end this war?
Well, about ending the war, I mean, there have been some efforts to negotiate this with President Erdogan of Turkey and so forth, and all those efforts are very meritorious. There was a negotiation on the grain issue with Turkey, Russia, Ukraine, and so forth. I think the key aspect, which you're not really paying attention to, is how the U.S. Congress is going to react. The Republicans are in control of the House of Representatives. We've already given billions of dollars of aid, and the Republicans have been very circumspect and very much worried about increasing the the amount of money that's being spent for this weaponry without any limitation. So at the present time, it's unpredictable, and we really don't know. I think the war continues, and there will be continued efforts to provide military aid. Ukrainians are still holding on. If they still hold on, then I think the West and the U.S. will continue to support, but I don't think it's going to be unlimited. And at some point, there probably needs to be some sort of a conclusion, and that may result in some sort of an agreement with Russia, where Russia stays in place in part of Ukraine, and that would be really, really bad. But how else to end it, it's really not very clear. Ukraine can keep asking for weaponry, but is the amount of weaponry unlimited? This is, I think, very doubtful.
Right, Mark, thank you very much for your insights and analysis there.
Thank you.
WION, now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.